And I said, well, I'm a conservative because we're losing our civilization because of mass immigration. America doesn't resemble America anymore. France is no longer France. I said, and if we don't conserve the demographics, forget about the rest. That's what we need to conserve.
This is actually something that I do agree with Nick Fuentes on, especially even as the son of an immigrant. My dad is from a Muslim country, and I bet you cannot guess which one it is. My mother's German and Irish American. But, even, and I will say he did it legally too. He did it legally. Just because he was so smart, he was able to immigrate here, and then the connections that he made once he was here, he had I don't know how it works today, but how he had to do it was he had to have a citizen sponsor him. He had to somebody actually had to say, I will not let this man become a financial liability living in the United States. And they had to put up, they had to tell the government how much money there was in their bank accounts. And I mean, he really, my dad really went through the ropes to become a citizen here. Now, he didn't just tie his work boots across his neck and swim across the Rio Grande. But this is something interesting that Nick's talking about here with the mass migration. It wasn't really talked about much back then, but, then once it came out that the Obama administration, or excuse me, the Biden administration, they used an app where to help people cross the border, and then that once they were here, these liberal cities would put them up in hotels, and then there was a whole thing of children going missing. You remember that tens of thousands of children just went missing, and like vans were picking them up at these airports and these not detention centers but holding centers. Remember those videos where people were like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you taking these kids? And the people driving them were like,
You're about to run a human being over. Hey,
you got those children in there.
Who are you?
You got those smuggled children illegally. Hey, we need the police over here. They got a bunch of kids without their car seats.
Very, very weird. Just that whole situation's weird. And then what's happening in Europe is incredibly weird. Elon Musk talks about this a lot. And if you watch the Joe Rogan Elon Musk that just came out, oh my God. What Elon talks about is how voters are being imported. That at least for the Democrats in America, the theory is, let's bring in a bunch of people from Latin America who will vote Democrat because we will give them citizenship. And then you can just flood Texas with immigrants. You can flood all these areas, and then you essentially turn the entire country blue. Now, I should point out too that folks from Latin America are generally would outside the immigration issue would probably actually be conservative. The Latinas are very Catholic, and that's I think they would actually identify more with the right than the left, and that might not be a great long-term strategy. Maybe for a generation, the Democrats would get more votes, but eventually, I believe most of those Latinas will turn to the right. So not a great long-term strategy, but in Europe, I really don't understand it, because they're bringing in people, in Germany and in France and Ireland and the UK. They're bringing in people from like Africa and the Middle East, people from completely different cultures. I mean, that's a completely different. I mean, Latinas and Americans, we do share a common religion. Whether they're Christians that come over here, I don't believe the Latinas that are coming over are nearly as violent as the Muslims and the North Africans or the Africans that are coming into Europe. You hear stories all the time of the huge explosion in rapes that's happened in Europe over this. I mean, it's just insane. And then to criticize it, there's been 12,000 arrests for social media posts in Britain this year. 12,000, more than Russia, more than China, more than any authoritarian regime for social media posts. I mean, I honestly don't understand how people in the UK, or I should say blokes, I don't understand how blokes in the UK even do it. Like, how do you even live in that country? How do you even, I guess, the UK's been a monarchy for so long that people there are just used to it, or Elon Musk describes it as people in the English countryside are like hobbits. They don't think about the outside world much, and they just kind of smoke their pipes, and they enjoy good meals and tea time, and they don't think about the problems that are in London. But I mean, London's an incredibly unsafe city. Incredibly, you couldn't pay me enough to go to London. It is you are much safer. This is a true thing. You are orders of magnitude safer in Moscow, Russia, in St. Petersburg, than you are in London. London's very dangerous, and the government essentially does nothing about it. And this whole mass immigration thing is very weird. Some people say on the one side, I guess on the lighter end of the spectrum, they say it's about helping people, and it's about maybe importing voters, I guess, behind the veil a little bit. On the darkest side, people say it's literally about the destruction of Western civilization, which it makes you wonder why it's happening in England. It makes you wonder, what about England? Why are there so many arrests there? Why is there so many, it makes you wonder if the royal family ever really stopped ruling England. It just makes you wonder, why England? It's one of the only true monarchies left. I mean, it's still a monarchy, England. They still have a king and a queen, and they say, oh, it's just a ceremonial role. It's just okay, where'd all that money go? Right? Where'd all the money from the British Empire go? Did it just go away? What are they called? The Windsors? I think that's their last name, right? The Windsors. Did they ever really stop controlling what happened to England, or was it just, they just said, all right, we'll hand over control to Parliament. We'll just kind of sit back, and we'll hang out in our palaces and our castles and our estates, and we'll just chill. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to, kind of be in the public eye for a ceremonial role. Or maybe they're still involved, and maybe this whole mass migration thing is a big I don't know, a big plot.